Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the art and science of data storytelling.
Yeah, how you take all that raw data and, well, turn it into stories that actually connect with people, make them understand, and maybe even act.
Exactly. It's not just about numbers, it's about narrative.
And it's such a crucial skill now, isn't it? There's data everywhere.
For sure. Our source material for this discussion comes from research shared by Dr. Anoja at the University of Surrey.
Right, and that builds on some really foundational work by people like Angelica Lo Duca and McDowell. They lay out a pretty practical path.
And that's our mission, really, to unpack some practical tools, some insights that you can use. It doesn't matter what your background is.
The goal is to help you get better at communicating with data, not necessarily become a data scientist overnight.
Right, it's about being a better communicator, just using data as your tool.
So we're going to look at the whole process, kind of end to end.
Starting with maybe the toughest bit for a lot of folks. Finding those key insights, the story hiding in the numbers.
Yeah, digging them out. Then how do you make those insights, visible? How do you make them easy to grasp? We'll talk about visualization tools and principles.
And then critically, how you structure that story so it actually lands, so it makes an impact.
We'll also touch on how AI is shaking things up a bit.
Oh, definitely. And the big trends. What's happening right now in data storytelling?
Okay, let's get into it then. Starting at square one, you've got this mountain of data. Where do you even begin to find the story?
Yeah, how do you find the narrative thread?
That really is the first big hurdle.
Yeah.
Raw data on its own. It's just numbers, text. Pretty meaningless.
So you need strategies.
Exactly. Strategies to sift through it, find what's actually interesting, what's meaningful. Angelica Lo Duca's work, which our sources highlight, gives us a great set of tools for this. Think of them like different lenses.
Lenses, okay. I like that. What's the first lens?
First one is temporal analysis. Sounds fancy, but it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's just looking at how data changes over time.
Right, like trends.
Yeah, trends, cycles, sudden spikes or dips. These often tell really powerful stories. The sources mention looking at data on global terrorist attacks, for instance. If you plot that out year by year, you'll see this significant jump around 2003.
Ah, okay. And if you know your history, you connect that timing to, say, the U.S. invasion of Iraq.
Precisely. The data shows the spike in temporal analysis helps you explore the when and potentially link it to the why or the context.
So it turns static numbers into a kind of journey.
Exactly. Or think about global temperature data over the last 100 years. Looking at it temporally, year by year, that warming trend just jumps out at you.
Which you totally miss if you just looked at isolated years.
Right. So that's temporal.
Yeah.
Super useful.
Okay. Lens one. Time, what's another one?
Zooming. This is all about changing your perspective, your scope.
You mean like looking closer or stepping back?
Exactly that. You can zoom in for the fine details. Like instead of global temperature, you look just at the Arctic.
And you might see it's warming way faster there.
Right. Or you zoom out to see the bigger picture, the overall global patterns again.
So seeing the forest and the trees.
You got it. Both views are usually needed for the full story. Sometimes the big trend is the news. Sometimes it's that tiny exception that tells you something important.
Makes sense. You need context, but also the specifics. What else?
Next up, multi-category comparison.
Comparing different groups.
Yeah, within your data.
Yeah.
So comparing sales figures for product A versus product B versus product C.
Or, going back to that other example, comparing the activity levels of different terrorist groups.
Doing this immediately shows you who the dominant players are, or it highlights anomalies.
Like, why is product A outperforming everything else by a mile? Or why did this one group suddenly go quiet?
Exactly. Comparison gives you that relative perspective. It turns a boring list into a ranking, or it puts a spotlight on something unexpected. Helps you ask why.
Okay, comparing groups. And you mentioned location too.
Yes, spatial analysis.
Yeah.
Comparing data based on where it happened.
Like crime rates in different parts of a city.
Perfect example. Or sales performance across different states or countries. You visualize this, maybe on a map, maybe a bar chart broken down by region.
And suddenly geographic patterns pop out.
Right. Why are sales higher here? Why is the infection rate lower there? Location itself becomes part of the story.
That's another dimension. Okay, so time, zoom level, categories, location. One more.
Identifying outliers. These are the weird ones, the data points that just don't seem to fit the pattern.
The exceptions to the rule, like that sudden, totally random spike in website traffic on a Wednesday.
Exactly like that. And that outlier could be huge.
Right.
It might signal a massive success. You need to understand maybe a marketing campaign hit gold.
Oh.
Or it could just be a glitch, a data entry error, a tracking bug. You have to investigate outliers.
They could be noise, or they could be the most important signal.
Precisely. They could be single points, or maybe a whole cluster of points behaving strangely, or even just something unusual for its context, like a record heat waves in October. It stands out.
They're basically screaming for attention.
They really are. And they often hold critical clues. So these strategies, time, zooming, comparing, location, outliers, they're how you start turning that big, messy pile of data into, like, the core ingredients for your story.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You use these lenses, you find the interesting bits, the patterns, the anomalies. Now, the fascinating part is taking those insights, those building blocks, and making them visible, making them easy for someone else to see and understand. Because, let's face it, a brilliant insight buried in a giant spreadsheet isn't helping anyone.
So true. And that's where data visualization is key. Our sources mention Python's Altair library specifically, and I think it's a really good example because of how it works.
How so?
It's built on these things called Vega and Vega Lite, and it uses a declarative approach.
Declarative. What's that mean in plain English?
It means instead of you telling the computer exactly how to draw everything, draw a line here, put this label there, make this axis this long, which gets super complicated fast. You just declare what you want the chart to show. You basically say, okay, here's my data. I want bars. Put product names on the bottom axis, put sales figures on the side axis.
Ah, so it's like ordering off a menu. I'll have a bar chart showing product sales, and Altair figures out the details, the scaling, the labels, the positioning.
Pretty much. It handles a lot of that grunt work automatically based on your data. It makes creating clean, professional-looking charts way simpler than some other methods where you're micromanaging every little detail.
So you focus more on the what you want to show, less on the nitty-gritty how of drawing it.
Exactly. It gets your insights into a visual form much faster. Really useful.
Okay, tools like Altair make building charts easier. But just having a chart isn't enough, right? How do you make sure that chart actually, works, that it communicates clearly?
Great question. This is where the sources bring in something called the OFCUS, an acronym.
Yep, a handy one for designing visualizations that really hit the mark. F is for filter out non-essentials.
Get rid of the clutter. Exactly. Anything on that chart that doesn't directly help show the main point, cut it. Keep it clean.
Okay, O.
O is for organize for clarity. Structure the chart logically. Think about how someone's eye is going to travel across it. Is it easy to follow? Is there a clear flow?
Right, guide the viewer. C.
C is choose the right chart type. This is so important, and people mess it up all the time.
Like using a pie chart for something that changes over time.
Exactly. Or a line chart when you should be comparing distinct categories with a bar chart. Use the visual form that best fits the data and the story you're telling.
Makes sense.
U is use visual hierarchy. This means using visual cues like size, color, maybe bolding to make the most important information stand out.
Draw attention to the key takeaway.
Precisely. Guide their eye to what really matters. And finally, S.
S is for?
Simplify labels and legends. Keep any text clear, concise, and avoid jargon. Make sure people can instantly understand what the axes represent, what the colors mean, without needing a PhD or a company dictionary.
That whole focus thing sounds like common sense, but it's easy to forget when you're deep in the data.
It really is. But applying it can be transformative. Think about a really messy, confusing sales chart.
Okay.
Apply Focus S. Filter out the tiny selling products nobody cares about. Organize the bars logically, maybe highest to lowest. Choose the right chart, definitely a bar chart here. Use a bright color just for your top 3 performers, visual hierarchy. Simplify the labels from complex product codes to understandable names.
Suddenly it goes from overwhelming to instantly clear, these 3 are driving our sales.
Exactly. So Altair helps you build a chart easily. Focus S helps you make sure that chart actually tells the story effectively. It's the bridge between just showing data and creating a visual narrative.
Okay, so we've found insights using those lenses. We visualize them effectively with tools like Altair and principles like Focus S. Now you have these pieces, the insights, the visuals. How do you actually string them together into a proper story, something cohesive with a beginning, middle, and end?
Right, it's not just a slideshow of charts. This is where another framework from Lo Duca and McDowell, mentioned in our sources, comes in really handy. The S-DIKW pyramid.
S-DIKW. Okay, what does that stand for? Data.
Data. Information, knowledge, and wisdom. It's a way to structure your thinking and your story, guiding you from the raw stuff all the way to actionable results.
Okay, let's break that down. Data is the starting point, the raw facts.
Yep, just the basic numbers, the observations, temperature readings, sales figures per day, number of people experiencing homelessness in different areas, the raw material.
Then information. That's data with context.
Exactly. Information is data that's been organized and presented. So those temperature readings become information when you plot them on a chart showing that warming trend.
Or the list of homelessness numbers becomes information when you put it in a bar chart comparing regions.
Right. It's data that now has some structure, some relevance. You can see patterns or comparisons.
Okay. Next level. Knowledge. This feels like where the understanding happens.
It is. Knowledge is grasping the meaning behind that information. It's not just seeing the warming trend information, but understanding why it's happening. Maybe connecting it to CO2 emissions from human activity. That's knowledge.
Or understanding why one region has higher homelessness. Perhaps it's due to job losses in a specific industry there, or lack of affordable housing.
Precisely. It's getting to the underlying causes and implications of the patterns you see in the information.
Okay, data, facts, information, context, knowledge, understanding why. What's the peak? Wisdom. That sounds big.
It does sound a bit grand, maybe, but in this context, it's very practical. Wisdom is about applying that knowledge to make informed decisions or to drive action.
Ah, okay, so it's about doing something with the understanding.
Yes. If you know human activity is driving warming, knowledge, wisdom is using that to argue for, say, investing in green energy or implementing carbon taxes.
Right. Or if you know why homelessness is high in a certain region, knowledge, wisdom is proposing targeted solutions, maybe not just generic shelters, but specific job training programs or mental health support tailored to that region's needs.
You've got it. It's taking the so what from knowledge and turning it into now what. What should we actually do based on this understanding?
That pyramid structure seems really useful for building a logical flow, making sure you don't just dump data on people.
Exactly. It ensures your story progresses naturally from the facts to the meaning to the potential action. It forces you to think about the ultimate purpose and connect the dots for your audience.
This all sounds very human. Careful thinking, structuring the narrative, understanding the audience. How does technology, specifically AI, fit into this? Is it taking over the storytelling?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the answer, I think, is no, it's not taking over, but it's definitely changing the game. It's becoming a powerful assistant, an augmenter.
Augmenting how? What can AI actually do in this process?
Well, several things. It can help with the insight discovery phase, for starters. AI algorithms can chew through massive data sets way faster than we can, spotting complex patterns or correlations, maybe even predicting future trends like sales forecasts based on tons of variables.
Things a human might miss or take ages to find.
Right. And on the visualization side, AI tools are getting pretty good at recommending chart types. You feed it data, and it suggests, hey, this looks like time series data, maybe try a line chart. Or these look like categories, a bar chart might work well.
So it helps avoid those wrong chart type mistakes we talked about.
It can, yeah. Saves time and potentially improves clarity right off the bat.
What about tailoring the actual story? Can it help with that?
Yes, that's another interesting area. AI can help adapt the narrative for different audiences.
How so?
Imagine you need to present findings to executives and also to the public. AI could help generate a concise, bottom-line focused summary for the execs.
And maybe a more detailed, relatable version with human interest examples for a general audience.
Exactly. It can help adjust the depth, the tone, the style, based on who you're trying to reach. It can also automate some of the drafting, creating initial report sections or first-pass visuals.
Okay, so it handles some of the grunt work, freeing up the human.
That's the key idea. It frees up the human storyteller to focus on the really crucial parts, refining the core message, ensuring accuracy and fairness, adding that essential context and nuance, checking for potential biases in the data or the interpretation.
And most importantly, framing the story in a way that connects emotionally and motivates action.
Absolutely. AI can surface a trend or suggest a visual, but it takes human understanding, empathy, and strategic thinking to weave that into a narrative that truly resonates and achieves a specific goal, like changing policy or inspiring investment.
So the human is still very much the storyteller, the strategist. AI is more like a really smart research assistant and production tool.
That's a great way to put it. A co-pilot? Maybe. But you still need the pilot to decide the destination and navigate the complexities. And defining your audience really clearly becomes even more critical if you want AI to help effectively tailor the delivery.
Got it. So looking ahead then, what does the future hold? What are the big trends shaping data storytelling as we look towards, say, 2025?
Well, we've touched on some already. AI-powered tools are definitely a major trend. Platforms integrating AI to automate data prep, suggest visuals, even draft initial narratives. Think tools like Canva data storytelling, bringing this to a wider audience. The aim is to let people focus more on the story itself.
And you mentioned accessibility earlier.
Yes, data democratization. This is huge. More and more user-friendly tools are popping up, things like Yellowfin BI, that let people who aren't data scientists explore data and build their own stories. It's breaking down the barriers.
Making data communication skills more widespread.
Exactly. Then there's interactive visualizations. Static charts are becoming less common.
People want to click and explore?
Definitely. Especially on mobile. Audiences expect to be able to filter, drill down, hover for details. The sources even mention early steps into using VR and AR for really immersive data experiences. Places like FuseLab Creative are experimenting here. It makes the audience feel more involved.
More engaged. And personalization.
Big time. Using what you know about your audience to tailor the data story specifically for them. This is huge in marketing, obviously, but relevant anywhere you want to boost engagement. Companies highlighted like storytelling statistics focus on using data about the audience to make the story resonate more deeply. Makes it feel like, this is relevant to me.
And the last one you mentioned, ethics.
Crucial. As we tell more stories with data, the responsibility to be truthful, transparent, and unbiased grows. Addressing privacy concerns, being clear about data limitations, it's fundamental for building trust. You can't have impactful storytelling without that ethical foundation.
So these trends, AI, democratization, interactivity, personalization, ethics, they're all pushing data storytelling to be more accessible, more powerful, and hopefully more responsible.
It's a really dynamic field right now. Lots of potential to communicate complex stuff much more effectively.
Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive. We started with how to find those hidden insights using strategies like temporal analysis, zooming, comparison, spatial analysis, and spotting outliers.
Turning raw data into story ingredients.
Then we looked at making those insights shine through effective visualization using tools maybe like Altair, but critically applying principles like FOCS to ensure clarity and impact.
Filtering, organizing, choosing the right chart, using hierarchy, and simplifying.
We explored structuring the whole narrative logically using the S-DIKW pyramid, moving from data to information to knowledge and finally to actionable wisdom.
Building a story with purpose.
And we discussed how AI is becoming a powerful co-pilot, augmenting human creativity rather than replacing it, alongside key trends like democratization, interactivity, personalization, and the absolute necessity of ethical storytelling heading into 2025.
It really is an essential skill now, data storytelling. It's about making sense of the numbers and making that sense clear to others.
So thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening right now? Here's something to chew on, building on what we've discussed. Think about some data you deal with regularly. Could be work stuff, project reports, sales figures, website analytics. Could be personal, your budget, your fitness tracking, maybe even online reviews for restaurants you like.
Okay.
Now just pick one insight strategy we talked about, maybe comparing categories within that data or looking for outliers. Or pick one visualization principle, like just trying to filter out clutter on a chart you already use, applying that FOCS idea. How could applying just that one small thing potentially uncover a story you hadn't seen before, or help you explain something more clearly to someone else? What might that reveal, and how could it change the way you talk about that information?